Okay, I'm continuing where I left off. You're going to keep pouncing and making different layers, and you can pull it a little bit. But the main point that you want to keep doing is move that stencil around for your clouds. And you're going to get different colors, you're going to get different textures. And then, like I said, the area towards the center, you want to pull it out that way. And I think you can see how that does look. So I'm not going to do any more with that. Just very, very neat. And then I did put a little bit of antique linen in it. I don't know if you can see it on this side, but antique linen brings you a little bit of yellow because you got a little yellow in the sky, believe it or not. That is just normal. So once I got to that point, I ended up mounting that onto my card. And I don't know where my card went that I had just that one mounted for you. Oh, here it is. So that's now where I'm at. Now pretend I have my background there, but you can see what the sky looks like. Next step that I ended up doing is I ended up taking blue, this is American Crafts paper, and just tore it. And I tore it into long strips. And the reason we did this was to achieve the look of water. At the top of each of those strips, I ended up taking my distress ink. As you can see, I have my sun, or my sky. You can see my front cover is pulled around like it's supposed to be. There's some of the antique linen in there. And I highlighted the different layers of the ocean. And you can see there's like 3 layers of that paper. And then the next step was taking glue and pulling it on to the paper. And what I did with the glue was I tried to do a little bit of a shape. You got to be very careful and make sure you leave enough space in the gap here because that's where it's going to fold. And I ended up making things go quicker. I ended up using the accent, matte accent, because some of the other glue is just too sticky, and I also wanted to get the effect, and you can't see it on this, but when you see your cards when they come to you eventually, I actually tilted at them and why it was still wet, and that gives you the impression that the waves have come in and left and gone out. Now, to make it easier to get my sand on, I ended up buying the sand at Michael's, and I put it in this little box, or bottle, excuse me. I think this is supposed to be like for mustard or something like that. And it just makes it easier. You can control where you put in the sand. And then you're going to have to set that aside and let that dry for a real long time. I recycled it, knocked all my sand off, and just kept recycling it. So I'm to that point now where I have my sky and my sea. And then I've got my sand. And it's all dry. And now comes the fun part, which is my decorating. As you saw in the original card, I ended up stamping multiple stamps. I did use quite a few stamps. I used the Stamping Up set was for the sailboat. This was also, I believe, sketches or something, seaside sketches. And then this is this sand castle is actually from Michael's. It's in package, and I can't think of the stamp set to save my life. One of Inkadinkado ones. And the sun was also, I believe the sun is actually from Studio G, and that was done, I don't know if you can see that's multicolored, but that was done with just watercolor markers. So what I end up doing, the first step is, when I get to this point, I have cut out and stamped several of my sailboats. And what I do with the sailboats prior to stamping them on there, I end up taking, I'm going to try to bring this back up to you, some of the blue that I used in the sky and stamped it onto my white cardstock because once I cut this out, it was too bland. You could just tell it was white background, and I didn't want that to be the case. So I ended up, like I said, taking some of this that same sponge and sponging on some of that blue to get some of the blue behind the sailboat. Next step was coloring in the flag. As you can see, I colored it red. And then as you can see, I had to hand cut every one of those stamps out from this block. So it's right there. That's the block, part of the block that I used. So you can see that that's where that came from, except for my hands in the way. Then I ended up stamping all those on this very heavy cardstock that I have, and colored in just the sailboat part on the bottom brown. Then I end up having to cut these out, and then I'm going to show you how I do what I do next. The next part of this is to do the layering. And what I mean by the layering is I end up taking a lot of pop dots. I end up using 1/4 inch and 1/8 inch, which are different size thickness, and took those and end up making my cells, as you can see, dimensional. I cut the two smaller ones and glued them directly onto the paper. Then I took the thin 1/8 inch pop dots, put it underneath there, put a little glue at the tips of those so I could hold them down. And then the one cell has the real thick pop dots underneath it. Gives it a lot of dimensions, makes it look active, like it's blowing in the wind. Then I took my sandcastle, same thing, used 1/8 inch ones on the back of those. Those are all pre-cut out, and they also have some, you can't see it, but it's got dimensionals on it, and there is also some gold glimmer spray, so it looks wet when you have it. Actually, you can't tell it here. So I cut all of those out after I cut them. I also cut all my little guy out after I watercolored them with watercolor crayons. Cut out, and this is just a little punch to get the hole behind his arm, because at first it wasn't obvious, then it started showing to me that I did not like it as well. So I get to this point then with getting them mounted, and he is on the thicker mounting pop dot, so he stands up even higher. I put some hot glue on the bottom base of this sandcastle, this part at the very bottom, that part, and then put it on, and then I put glue on top of it again and put more sand. Then I put him down and put a little more hot glue underneath his starfish on his hand and put it on top of the sandcastle. So it all looks like he's bending down, picking it up. And then here you're going to see some mounted different seashells. And that's sort of where I am on that step. Next step is putting the sun in the sky, and that's going to be all over the place, just depends on where I put it at that time. And that is also on with a 1/4 inch dot. And next step is probably also one of the more difficult steps, and that is trying to get a palm tree made. And everybody's palm tree is going to look different. There's no two ways about it. I had started out one way, did not like them, ended up having to go find more palm tree. As you can see on mine, this is the original version, did not like that either. Finally went to Michael's and found this nice little spray of ferns, basically. Cut them down, and started out with just 4 prongs, but I think 5 makes it look more like a palm tree. Sorry, this one's twisted. This is textured paper I bought at Joann's. Just hand tore it for this bark, and then I also distressed it with some vintage photo, or excuse me, walnut stain to make it look like it had the different layers. These are coconuts, and basically those are dewdrops that I originally started staining them with brown alcohol ink. They did not turn out, so then I ended up using my matte accent and dipped them into brown Studio G flocking that I had bought earlier in the year. So those are the coconuts, and that's basically where I'm at. And as you can see, that has made, I think, look more like a palm tree. Next step will be stamping in my birds up in the corner and this, and then pretty well the front cover, which I'm not going to go into great detail about, is making the little signs, putting some seashells down there, putting some grass down, and that's pretty well your tag. It is a 2-parter. I got it done in 2 parts. I could spend hours showing you how I did this stuff, but that is a quick way to give you what I did. And I just want to thank all the ladies that did participate in this swap. I know I sort of bugged you with emails, but as everybody found out, YouTube had some issues with communications, and I just really wanted to make sure I had given everybody a fair chance of getting their items in. Great time. I'm not sure. I'm contemplating about doing another swap. I will post if I do. I'm going to think about it for the rest of the weekend. And if I do, I'll post it and let you guys know what I'm going to do. But this was fun. Great time hosting. Hope to see some more great finds and nice things that people have done. Thanks. Have a great day.